Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to this very special edition of the Erin Molan Show. I've just had a conversation with the most incredible woman. Her name is Elizabeth Pipko. She was the RNC spokesperson during Trump's most recent election campaign. She clearly did a phenomenal job, essentially got him back into office. Yes, I'm giving her almost entirely credit for that alongside Lara Trump. She was head of volunteers in 2016. She says she owes Donald Trump her life. That's a big deal, clearly. I want to explain to you via her the relationship these two have and why you will be, without any doubt, seeing much more of her over the next few years. She has so much to give. She's a daughter of immigrants who taught her how to work hard, how to live with nothing, and how to earn everything. And so she is so grateful to be an American, to work with Trump, and her story is just really inspiring. We always see her on TV. She's always talking about different political issues. I wanted her to talk about herself. There's also quite a, how do I frame this? She could be arrested after this because she did go against Donald Trump's securities orders as well. So enjoy, because it actually might be the last we see of her.
Who is ready to put Donald Trump back in that White House?
Somebody who defends me so well, Elizabeth Pipko. Wow, I watched you last night, Elizabeth. You were brutal to this other person. They didn't have a chance last night, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. She defends me better than anybody.
Elizabeth Pipko, it's such an honour to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You spend a lot of your time on major, not just American networks, but globally, talking about America, talking about Israel, talking about President Trump, talking about conservative values. I want to talk a little bit about that, but I'd actually love to talk about you, which I'm sure you're not overly comfortable with. But would you mind helping us understand a little bit more about this? And I'm allowed to say beautiful woman because Donald Trump's back in the office and we're allowed to talk about that again, about this beautiful woman who cares so deeply, but also does so many other things and has so many other kind of parts to her.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've gotten to talk about myself a little bit, but never like in an official, normal capacity, getting to speak as Elizabeth Pipko. I actually left the RNC after we won because I was like, it's time for me to just speak as me. You know, I've spoken on behalf of Donald Trump or on behalf of the Republican Party or whatever other group or super PAC or whatever it was I was a part of for like, I think almost 10 years at this point that I've worked on and off for President Trump or in politics. And I was just thinking, you know what? I am pretty grown. I've done this for some time. I've been through hell and back working for President Trump, and now it's time to speak as me. So it's been really good. It's been different. Kind of feeling like I don't answer to anybody but myself. My views obviously haven't really changed, but no, I mean, I'd love to let people know where I come from and why I feel as passionately as I do about so many things. But it's been really great since we won that election, just getting to, you know, be on all these networks, like you said, but as Elizabeth Pipko for the first time in a long time.
Well, congratulations on the role you played in winning that election. It was significant, and I know that I'm not the only one who thinks that and who has said that. Donald Trump is a huge fan of yours, and we'll get on to him later. But before that, your childhood, what was that like?
I had the best childhood in the whole world. Both my parents are immigrants to the United States. Both were Jewish refugees at one point that, you know, fled the Soviet Union, $90 in their pockets, having nothing, not knowing, you know, what was next, who came separately, but who came to New York and just, you know, prayed for a better life for their future children, for future Jews who, you know, were going to get to be proud, open Jews for the first time in a long time in each of their families. Neither of them had known what that experience was like. My mom very often tells me about how she was beaten by kindergartners, like fellow kindergartners back in Russia who found out that she was a Jew. Like that's what she knew of being a little kid who was Jewish. And she just wanted a different life, obviously, for her future children. Obviously, my dad thought the same. So I was raised by my parents, by my grandparents, by a set of babysitters who actually became like my adopted grandparents and the most important people in my life. I went to an Orthodox Jewish school. I was in New York City, which I hope will still remain the greatest city on the face of the earth, though that's another conversation. I was on the math team. I was captain of the math team. I played violin 3 hours a day. I was a competitive figure skater at one point in time. I loved my school. I loved my friends. I had the greatest upbringing anyone could really ever have. And I think that's a piece of why I try to advocate so strongly for this country and what it means to me, because it literally has given me and my parents the American dream, the greatest life I think anyone could have ever asked for. And if my parents hadn't risked it all and fled to come here, I would never know what that means. And I might even believe what a lot of crazy people my age are screaming about when it comes to communism and Marxism and everything else. And luckily, instead, I believe in the American dream and everything that it stands for, because I know it to be true.
So, captain of math, you played violin.
Yes.
You were a competitive figure skater. You were also a model, gracing the front pages of magazines. Do you have any flaws?
I wish my husband was in the room, because he could bring out a notebook. Let me tell you, I can't drive, never will. I'm like the perfect female stereotype of like should not be behind the wheel ever. There's a few others that I'll let him list one day. But yes, I have lots of flaws. But my parents taught me if you work your butt off, you can pretty much do anything, and they've been pretty correct on a lot of that.
I love that so much. And that American dream part, I think one of the things that frustrates me so much about so many young people, not just in America, but in the West generally, they've never experienced hardship. They've never suffered or struggled. So when they cling on to these causes that they do not understand, and they don't understand the impact of what they are doing, it drives me insane. Whereas people like you, even through your parents, understand struggle and opportunity and are so grateful for the opportunity that you got given in America.
More than grateful. I mean, my mom less so because she was younger, but my dad, I mean, truly went through absolute hell coming to this country. He said goodbye to his father, who he never got to see again. My grandfather died a really, really tragic death back at the hands of Russians, the KGB. It's a long story. People can guess how horribly he was treated. He wasn't allowed to leave, so my dad had to flee with his mom, say goodbye to his dad, who he never saw again, come to this country with, not a dollar. I very often tell the same story because I grew up, and he would remind me every single day that he ate at soup kitchens and shelters, and when he wanted to, treat himself to a McDonald's hamburger, which I think he said was like 40 cents at the time, he would walk home because that was the money he had for the subway, and he had to choose between taking the subway home or getting that McDonald's hamburger. So, I mean, that's the struggle that my dad had. And for those who don't know, my dad was just nominated by President Trump to be ambassador to Estonia, to go back to where he was born. And I mean, literally is the epitome of the American dream. You can come here and, have to feed yourself at food banks and shelters, and owned really nothing. He had like a shirt and a pair of pants to his name for many, many years, and that was it. And now he's an ambassador representing the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Because if you work hard, you can do anything. And I grew up with these stories. I grew up sitting on my grandpa's lap as he told me how he suffered and how his parents suffered, and, what it was like being a little kid going door to door begging if, he would wash people's windows, would they give him a piece of bread that he would then share with his family for dinner. I mean, that's what it was like living in the Soviet Union. By the way, that's what it's like living under communism and socialism, all these terms people are obsessed with, but that's all I know. So for me to grow up in New York City with the greatest life in the world and every possible opportunity being handed to me, I'm so grateful, obviously, to my parents and everything they went through, but also, again, to this country where I believe this is still possible for everybody. And that's why so many people are lined up to try to get in here. So many people try to do it the legal way, and unfortunately also the illegal way. But everyone wants to be here because it's the last place on earth where you can still have everything at your fingertips if you work your butt off for it. And I will advocate for that and for this country being the best nation on the face of the earth until I'm blue in the face and everybody knows that I'm correct.
Were you always conservative in your values, or was there a period in your teens where maybe your friends were more left-leaning? How did you juggle that period of your life? Because I know it's difficult at that age, particularly in a lot of colleges and a lot of areas.
No, everybody asks this. If anything, I've gotten a little more left-leaning or a little more moderate. I was like a crazy right-wing child. My parents never talked politics, ever. And I was like 8 years old, and they told me that I had I remember printing it. I don't know why I wanted it, but I was 8 years old, and above my bed, it said, "God and guns keep us strong. That's what this country was founded on. We might as well give up and run if we let them take our God and guns." And my parents were like, I don't know where she got this. I don't know why she went on the computer and printed it, but I printed it, and it was above my bed. I was Sarah Palin in the school election in 8th grade. I was like hard right. I don't know where it came from. My parents never talked politics with me ever. And they also voted, I mean, both ways. I knew they had supported like Bill Clinton. I knew they had voted for George Bush. I know they went back and forth, and we just were not a political household, and certainly not like a Republican household. So I don't know where it came from. And then I mellowed out a little as I grew up. But no, I never went through a liberal phase. I did have blue hair, but it didn't change me. I just really think it looks cool. I had blue hair and pink hair, and I have a bunch of piercings. But no, I have always been pretty hardcore.
I'm trying to think what poster I had on my bedroom at that age, and I think it was Hanson, the singers of Bop. So I feel very, I don't feel worthy in your presence. My political kind of persuasions came much later in life. Elizabeth, I want to ask you, so you went into modelling, you signed with an agency. That alongside this space that we're talking about now, was that difficult because people in that field tend to be more left-leaning? Did you get people who were kind of a little bit cold to you because of where you stood politically? Was it known? Were you always very public?
No, so nobody knew. In general, growing up, I guess when you're from New York, you're just surrounded by people with different views. I loved people around me being liberal. I loved disagreeing with people on things. I was very, very open in general with my friends and family, but I loved people who disagreed with me. I had no problem at all, and never did I think that America would go so crazy that you would get, penalized or banished from, certain spaces for who you voted for. But I had no issue. And then when I started working for Donald Trump, I was still modeling, and I knew no one was going to be nice to me if they found out. So I actually lied to my agents for the months, 4 or 5 months that I was on the 2016 campaign. I told them I was busy or sick or whatever it was. And if I had a casting, sometimes my boss actually on the campaign let me go run and do a casting or a job. But no one had any clue. And then after we won the election, I kept it to myself. I went back to school, didn't really expect people to find out. And I didn't know if I ever wanted to go back into politics again. I did not have a college degree. I just had so much I wanted to get done. I just thought I would make this man president or be a tiny piece of the team that made the man president, and then kind of like focus on myself for a little bit. But I happened to meet the love of my life on that campaign, and the president and his family, being the greatest people in the world, gave us Mar-a-Lago to get married in. And so when I got married at Mar-a-Lago, the press found out, and that's when I had to come out with my story. But up until that point, that was 2 years later, no one had any idea that I had worked for Donald Trump.
How did that all come about? How did that relationship with Donald Trump first begin, and how did he then convince you, or he probably didn't need to very heavily, I'd imagine, but to get involved in that 2016 campaign?
So in 2016, I didn't know him at all. I didn't know anyone. I was on track, or I want to say on track, to be a very, very high level figure skater. It was the love of my life was ice skating, still is ice skating. I discovered skating at 10 years old. My parents moved across the country with me, put me in homeschooling. I trained 8 hours a day with the greatest coaches ever. And then I destroyed my ankle, was told I would never skate again, never wear heels, never run, never live a normal life. And I went into a really dark depression. And I talk about it all the time. Donald Trump saved my life. I truly mean it. I was in a really dark place. So I was really depressed. And my brother came to me and said, there's this guy named Donald Trump. You know who he is from The Apprentice, from running and operating that ice skating rink in Central Park. But he's about to announce that he's going to run for president. This was probably 2014, meaning my brother is probably 15 years old. And he said, just so you know, this is going to be the next president of the United States. And I beg you to start listening to his speeches, to read his books, and to get your life in order. Get it together. I was very depressed, very sad. My brother and I have been best friends since diapers. And he said, this is what's going to change your life. And he bought me, I think, a few of his books, but I read Think Big and Kick Ass by Donald Trump, started listening to his speeches. Then he announced that he was running, and it clicked in that moment what my brother was referring to, because, everyone was laughing at Donald Trump. The entire world, Republicans, Democrats, his friends, former friends, current friends, whoever is left, people in America, people around the world were laughing at him. He was polling at 1%. And he got up every day and said, I don't care, I'm going to be the next president of the United States. And my brother knew that I needed that in my life, that kind of an inspiration. And then it was summer 2016. Donald Trump was not yet the Republican nominee, but obviously he had already, beaten expectations. And my brother said, come with me, let's volunteer for the campaign. I didn't even know what that meant, neither did he. But we got an email out of the blue, because God is amazing. And it said, hey, do you want to volunteer for the Trump campaign? So we went over to Trump Tower. There was like a call center downstairs so you could make phone calls. It's called like phone banking in politics. We did that for maybe 2 days. And then the athlete in me came out and I said, I need more. I wrote a letter to the data director of the campaign saying, let me fix your volunteer operation. Asked an intern to bring it upstairs and leave it on his desk. I got hired the next day. And I said, I will not work here without my little brother. My brother got hired the next day. He was the youngest staffer on the 2016 campaign. We made Donald Trump president. I met the love of my life on that campaign, and then it's the rest is history. But that's where it started. It was a total accident. I had no access to Donald Trump or anything else, despite what people think. And my brother, my husband, and I, from 2016 till now, have worked for President Trump.
What was the first moment like when you met him, when you stood face to face with him, shook his hand?
So I had met him a few times before he actually knew who I was, just over the years on the campaign. But I actually first met him during a book signing my brother told me to go to. Again, he hadn't announced yet. It was like 2014, maybe 2015. And I brought my ice skates with me, and I wanted him to sign them. And his security or Secret Service, I don't think he had Secret Service yet. His security was like, you can't go near this man with sharp blades. And so I was like, okay, I'll keep them in my bag, but I'll ask him. And they were like, do not ask him. Don't go near him. I went over to Donald Trump, security surrounding me and him. I'm 19 years old. Hello, sir. Signs my book. And I say, hey, security said I can't do this, but you're the reason that I'm back on the ice and you're my biggest inspiration. Would you sign my ice skate for me? And he goes, yeah, whip it out. And I pull out my ice skate and all the eyes are glaring at me and I'm terrified I'm going to get tackled. He signed it. He said, now you'll be even better. Patted me on the shoulder and I walked away and I was like, yeah, that's the coolest person I've ever met. And he has been even cooler, obviously, since getting to actually know him. But that was the first time I ever talked to Donald Trump.
Amazing. And so the next big high profile role for you in this space was the RNC. In your wildest dreams, did you ever for a second, well, you probably did, given I now know a little bit about you. You clearly back yourself in every environment, and I love that. But could you have ever imagined that you would be the front-facing person for one of the greatest movements in history?
So it's funny. I mean, in between that 2016 campaign and the 24, RNC job, there was a lot going on, obviously. In 2020, I ran a super PAC for him. Then I just started doing media commentary stuff. But obviously, after 2020 happened, I mean, everything went out the tubes. Everything was horrible. We were investigated. I think we're still being investigated by someone. Yeah. I mean, people begged us. My family begged my brother, my husband, and I to quit and walk away because it was just so dangerous and getting so bad. We were spending money on legal fees. Friends of ours had to leave because it was so bad. And we just, wanted to stick it out. So when it happened, when I actually got the offer, I remember coming to my dad and saying, what do I do? And most of me at that point was just scared, if God forbid he loses again and they continue the investigations, we're probably all going to prison, because I knew what the goal was on the Democrat side. And my dad looked at me and he was like, you think that this came out of nowhere, but 7-year-old Liz always knew she'd be the face of the Republican Party, so I don't think this is confusing at all. You already know exactly what you're going to do. But he was right. For many years, I had no interest in politics. I never realized that this was my path. But if I think back, I mean, I ran for secretary of my elementary school and vice president and president. I loved Sarah Palin. I even loved Hillary Clinton for a lot of reasons. I just loved American politics and I was obsessed. And as much as I didn't see it in the moment, I think 7-year-old Liz actually knew it was going to happen. So that's very cool. But no, again, daughter of 2 immigrants, the face of one of 2 major political parties in America. I mean, when does that happen? So no, I didn't deserve any of it and I can't believe it happened. And doing it for Donald Trump was the only way I ever would have done it, and it was the most special thing in the world.
Yeah, I disagree with you. You did deserve it, absolutely, and you did a phenomenal job in that space. I want to say something. I've watched a lot of people in this space and over many, many years, and when things are good, when Donald Trump is ticking every box on a high, changing the world, solving wars, it's really easy to be front and center supporting him. It's not even challenging on any level. In fact, it's what a pleasure. It's when he is down and out, when it's hard, that a lot of people disappear. You never disappeared, ever. In fact, you got louder. Why? I
mean, a part of it, I have to say, props go to my husband and my brother. I think I was more scared than them. And there were moments when I said, look, one day we have to have children and one day we have to have a life. And I love Donald Trump, but what about us? Like, what if, what happens to us? What if they do something to us? And my husband always looked at me and said, I will not be able to live with myself if I walked away from the good guy just because it got hard or it got scary, So I think that was a big part of it. Major props to both of them. They also get no recognition. I was on TV the entire time, and as scary as it was, I'm on TV, I'm getting recognized, the president knows who I am. There were people like my husband, like my brother, the people that just slaved away 24 hours a day in their offices, wanting no recognition and no attention, no names on anything, just believing in that man and wanting him to win, and thousands of volunteers around the country doing the same, and millions of people that thought of Donald Trump that way. And when you think of walking away, you think about all of those people, and how many people believe in him. And at the same time, like I said at the beginning, and I truly mean it, Donald Trump saved my life. Like, I was in such a dark place before he ran, and not only did he change my outlook on myself and my life, but look at the life I'm living now. That is because of President Trump, and I will stand up for him till the end of days, until he gives me a reason not to, on a political level, because I think he's the greatest president we will ever see. But also just on a personal level, the things people say about him and his family, they could not be further from the truth. There were days where I truly wished that they were true, and he was this mean, bad guy, and I could walk away. But he's not, and his children are not, and they've been better to me and to my family than so many people that I know, even, real friends and family I grew up with. Like, they have treated us better than most people that I know. They are the most down-to-earth, decent, loyal people you can meet, and I don't think I could live with myself if I turned my back on them just because things got scary. My parents were going to flee the Soviet Union, so I can come here and, be scared to stand up for what I believe in. Like, that, it didn't make sense. And again, there was a lot of tears and a lot of fears. And it was really, really scary for a good year or two. But the comeback was the greatest comeback in American history, and I got to be a part of it. So it all worked out. But yeah, it was a lot. And that bravery, I think the bravery is also contagious. Like, you watch a guy get shot in the head. You watch him get, he was faced with prison time. Every single day people said, you're going to lose and you're going to die in prison. That's what the Democrats wanted. And he got up every day and he didn't care. And I thought if he could do that, the least I could do is stand up for him.
That gives me shivers. I was about to say he's very lucky to have you, but it sounds like you're both very lucky to have each other. Looking ahead for you, do you have political aspirations of your own in terms of running, in terms of making a contribution in a different way?
So I would be lying, obviously, if I said no. People have pitched me on it. I've thought about it. It's contagious. You start and then you can't get away. I think it's in the back of my head for sure. I think 2026 might be out of the question, but you never know. Things change every single day, and that's what I've seen under Donald Trump. Like, I've seen the world and the country change nearly every single day. I saw the Republican Party change before my very eyes. So I'd like to see what happens over the next few months. I'd like to see what opportunities present themselves. I obviously want to consider going into the administration as well. Working for President Trump, working for the United States of America is a dream. And again, I'm very lucky. Not a lot of people say or get to say that they know the President of the United States. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot to consider. I want to see what God wants for me because he seems to have always put me on the right path. But certainly politics is going to be where I stay for the next few years.
I love that you mentioned God, because I wanted to finish on that. I know that religion is such a big part of your life, and it's something that you've fought for in regards to your people having the freedom to express that and the right to be safe in a country like America. How sad has it been for you to watch what has occurred globally and in America post October 7? And are you hopeful, particularly given the actions President Trump have taken, which have been phenomenal in so many ways, but are you hopeful that we will see a shift in what's become just this rot and this hate and anti-Semitism that exists in many places in America?
Yeah, it's a hard question because certain days have been really, really hard, and things I've seen, heard or said about me individually for being a Jew or just Jewish people in general, I never expected to, hear in my lifetime. My grandpa used to warn me about anti-Semitism and tell me that, yes, we're in a safer place now, but it's always going to exist. And 7-year-old Liz would roll her eyes and say, no, everything's fine now. Like, what's he talking about? And now it's, it's surrounded us. Like, you can't really have a conversation with someone and it doesn't come up because people want to talk about Israel or what they see on social media or whatever conspiracy theory that they heard. And it's been hard, but at the same time, it's been eye-opening because you get to see how easily people can be, just convinced of random nonsense on the internet. One day it's the Jews, the next day it's somebody else. And I will always stand up for what is right, no matter who's being targeted. At the same time, I've seen a lot of incredible people. You mentioned President Trump, who has, ironically, despite every name he was called when he first ran, he has been the greatest champion for Israel, but also just for Jewish lives in America and around the world. There's people like you who have no reason to do this and are in the fight every single day, just standing up for us because you know that it's right. And I think the more people we see like you, the more people that just stand up because it's the right thing to do, the more you actually kind of realize it's all going to be okay, because there are good people all around you. And I genuinely believe most Americans are incredible, down-to-earth, kind people. And yeah, people get gross and people get dirty. And the Torah, God told us that there's always going to be anti-Semitism, so we shouldn't be surprised. But I believe that we're in the greatest country in the world. I believe there are brilliant, kind, decent people around the world like you who have the guts to go out and say the right thing. And I believe at the end of the day, we're going to be okay.
Well, I'm inspired by people like you. I interviewed Netanyahu a couple of days ago, and I read out a quote from a group chat that I was in. And the quote was something to the effect of, President Trump is the greatest friend to Israel and the Jewish people since Moses. Would you agree? I mean, he's up there. He's up there.
He's definitely up. I mean, it's funny because people were saying that before, and I would, as much as I love President Trump, I would say, you never know, let's calm down. But considering how much anti-Semitism is around him, even in just like Republican circles, I'm not going to shy away from admitting that. It's everywhere. And how much he has no interest in buying into it, like even listening to it, giving it a time of day. All he does is the right thing 24/7, no matter what. He doesn't care. I'd say he is up there with Moses and a lot of others. And again, there's people that do the right thing, and there's people who do the right thing despite all odds against them and everyone pressuring them to do the opposite. President Trump is one of those people who does the right thing, whatever he believes in his heart to be right on any policy issue across the board, no matter what anyone says to him. And I think that's what should be admired.
It's a really key point, and I know I said we're wrapping up, but just on that, I can't imagine how difficult it must be for him with people in his own kind of circle and on his own side and in the Republican Party on the conservative side that are starting to spew some of the most horrific things. But you're right, he seems he's unwavering, isn't he? And that is really difficult.
It is, and I've watched him be unwavering since 2015. I always say pollsters don't know how to deal with him. Political pundits, political consultants don't know how to deal with him because pre-Donald Trump, everything kind of ran the same way. People looked at polls, they looked at public opinion, and candidates would, decide what it was that they claimed that they believed in based on what people were, saying that they wanted. Donald Trump's the opposite. He stands up even when it, could hurt his poll numbers and could hurt him. If he believes in something, he's going to say it, he's going to do it, and he believes in his heart that the American people will end up getting on board and see where he's coming from. That's another reason I say he's changed my life, because it makes you stronger, because you watch someone do that despite all the threats and everything around him, and you realize it's actually not that hard, and it feels good to, go to sleep, close your eyes at night and know that you did the right things. Whether it's anti-Semitism or a basic policy proposal or decision, I know for a fact President Trump will never waver, and I hope more people learn from that. Politics will never be the same because of him, because people have now changed the way that they operate, and I don't know how people are going to do it. Some will struggle, some will excel, but he has changed the game and changed the way that we view politicians, and politicians view issues in the world. And I really admire him mostly for that, because all the politicians that we hated before him, because Republicans, Democrats agreed politicians sucked. He is a different breed, and I love him for that.
Bless you. Thank you for all you do on behalf of all of us. And I can't wait to watch what you do next. It will be spectacular, I have no doubt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's amazing, isn't she? So articulate, so passionate, so loyal. That's the really big thing you take out of this, so incredibly loyal. Where will she end up? Who knows? But I'd say it will be somewhere very important, somewhere big, and somewhere very influential, because she is capable of all of those things. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and we'll see you next episode.